If you could only watch one fantasy football video this summer, it should be this one. In today's video, I'm going to be detailing exactly how you are going to be able to dominate your 2025 fantasy football drafts. We will start by discussing how your strategy changes based upon league size, roster settings, as well as your scoring settings. Then we'll be discussing a question that is as old as time. Do bye weeks matter in fantasy football? After that, we'll be going in depth through my quarterback, tight end, running back, and wide receiver draft strategies, closing things out with an actual mock draft, showing you guys how I would look to actually draft in my home leagues. Before we get on into the video, though, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. So without further ado, let's get into the number one, the best strategy in 2025 fantasy football draft. So we'll start with our first point, which is going to be league sizes, roster settings, and scoring matter. Beginning with league sizes, it is important to understand how a league size can change your draft strategy in a very big way. In smaller 8 or 10 team leagues, the onesie positions, aka quarterback and tight end, are significantly more important when compared to a 12 or bigger league, a 14, 16 team league. Some of you crazy people are out there playing in 32 team leagues, right? The reason as to why this is the case in 8 or 10 team leagues is that a majority of the teams in your league will be stacked at running back and wide receiver. Even those players that aren't super experienced with fantasy football, even if you're playing with someone that has never watched football in their life, based upon the league being smaller in size, a lot of people in your league are going to have stacked running back and wide receiver room. So the way that you get the jump up on your opponent is by having the elite tight end or the elite quarterback. And in some instances, you may be able to get both an elite quarterback and an elite tight end. Now, it is also important to understand that this isn't a hard and fast rule, meaning that you don't have to 100% do this in order to win your league. And if there is value at running back or wide receiver, I wouldn't just jump on a quarterback or a tight end that you don't feel confident in just because I told you that the onesie position quarterback and tight end are more important in an 8 or 10 team league, but it is definitely something that I am paying attention to in my smaller league drafts. Now, for a 12 team league, I am always just going to be looking for best player available. I draft as normally as possible. Quarterback and tight end are definitely still valuable, right? They have their value on your team, but they are not musts, or they are not more important like they would be in an 8 or 10 team league. Now, if you are in one of the bigger leagues, 14 team, 16 teams, hopefully not much bigger than that, due to supply and demand, running backs are going to be much harder to come by. Now, I'm not saying that you need to go into your draft in the first round, draft a running back. The second round, guess what? You're drafting another running back. And then in the third round, fuck it, take your third running back, right? I'm not saying that you need to rip 3 running backs off the board instantly, but I do feel a lot better about my teams in those bigger leagues by drafting at least 1 running back in the first 3 rounds. Now we'll move into roster settings. Now, if you are in more of the vanilla format, what I mean by that is the 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, and 1 flex league. Kicker, defense, bench spots don't really matter for this. Now, in this format that around half of my audience is going to be playing in, no position is significantly more important than another, and I would be focusing on just drafting the best player available at every selection, with depth mattering slightly less since you aren't able to start potentially 4 wide receivers or 4 running backs on a weekly basis. So that would give the quarterback and tight end position a slight bump like you're in a smaller 8 or 10 team league. Now, if you are able to start 3 wide receivers every week and a flex, or 2 wide receivers, 2 flexes, or maybe you're in one that's even bigger than that, right, where you're starting 3 wide receivers and 3 or 4 flexes, the wide receiver position becomes much more important, as weekly you can be starting 4 wide receivers or more. This leads to me being more likely to fade the elite quarterback or tight end, as well as being less ambitious to spam the running back button early on to make sure that I have an elite wide receiver core. Now, if you are in a super flex league, I made a completely different video about super flex draft strategy. So this is not the video for you. You want to go ahead and move on over to the super flex draft strategy video that I posted on August 11th. In that video, we go very much in depth into how super flex leagues function and how I look to attack a super flex draft. Now, when it comes to the scoring settings, it is crucial to know your league settings. I know this might be a take for just the least experienced players, but I expect everyone to watch this video, whether you're brand new to fantasy football or you've been playing fantasy football for 10 plus years like I have. It is still very important to check your league settings. Look, not every commissioner is going to tell you every single rule change that he made in the offseason. Some commissioners just say, fuck it, now let's add this league from being half PPR to full PPR, or it used to be standard, now it's full PPR, right? So you got to know whether your league is full PPR, half PPR, standard, because it drastically alters the type of players that you may draft. In full PPR, chasing targets is ideal in my opinion. Whereas if you're in a standard league, you're really just hunting for them touchdowns. And in half PPR, it is much more of a happy medium. 6-point versus 4-point passing touchdown leagues are also very important. In a 6-point per passing touchdown league, that really helps level the playing field between quarterbacks with insane rushing upside and those with more quote-unquote pocket passing abilities. A guy like Justin Fields is certainly much less valuable in a 6-point league compared to a 4-point per passing touchdown league. A 4-point per passing touchdown league, those extra 2 points for the rushing touchdown really does point you in the direction of drafting quarterbacks that run. I'm not saying that you need to draft a rushing quarterback in a 4-point per passing touchdown league, but hopefully you understand the point. If there is a rushing quarterback that you feel is very valuable, they definitely get a boost up. Now, we've got a question that I get all of the time. Do bye weeks matter? Because I make some fantasy football draft content where I do a draft and maybe I have a couple players on the same bye week and people panic. They're like, Nick, how can you draft multiple players from the same position on the same bye week? For me, the question of do bye weeks matter has a very simple answer. When you are talking about running back or wide receiver, I do not even look at the bye weeks during my draft. Obviously, on paper, it may look weird to draft 5 running backs and they are somehow all on the same bye week, but by the time you actually reach the bye weeks, your team is going to look drastically different. Some players that you drafted may be sleeping with the fishes like their name is Luca Brasi. They are out for the season. They are out for 3, 4, 5 weeks. They're chilling on your IR spot. And some of the players that you drafted might just be straight up ass. Shout out to Kendra Lust. And you're not going to have them on your roster anymore. They have been cut. So you are going to have players changing off your roster a ton throughout the season, utilizing the waiver wire. And for some of you guys who trade like you have a crack addiction, your team is going to look drastically different. Your team is going to probably be very different comparing it from when you draft to the 3rd or even 4th week of the season. Though, it is important to note that while we're talking about running back and wide receiver, and I don't really give a single fuck about the bye weeks there, if you're talking quarterback and you're talking tight end, if you're going to draft 2 quarterbacks or you're going to draft 2 tight ends, you need to make sure that they have 2 different bye weeks because you only have 2 of them. Now we'll move on into the positional draft strategy for quarterback, tight end, running back, and wide receiver. So if you guys have enjoyed thus far, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below. And whether you are new to the channel or not, make sure to leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. The first position to break down here is the quarterback position. Now, next to me is going to be my quarterback rankings for 4-point per passing touchdown leagues. If you want my quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, half PPR, full PPR, overall rankings, you can get those on the Patreon for $12.50 a month. If you just want to sign up for this month, get rid of it in September, go right ahead. That's perfectly fine with me over on Patreon. So to me, quarterback feels like I love all of the players in the top 3 tiers based upon how I have them ranked. We have talked about how I don't love Patrick Mahomes at ADP, but if Patrick Mahomes was to come off the board where I have him ranked, I would be fine drafting him there. I feel pretty good about the guys in the 4th tier, the D tier. If I'm in the 5th tier or later, I am definitely nervous about that quarterback entering into week 1, and I have some questions on if that guy will be viable for the whole season, or if I'm going to need to be switching in and out the quarterbacks all of the time because my confidence level isn't the highest. Now, if you are drafting a quarterback from the S tier all the way down to the C tier, I am significantly less likely to draft a second quarterback. If you are drafting anyone inside of the first 3 tiers, the S, the A, or the B tier, you are 100%, in my opinion, making a large mistake by selecting a second quarterback, because it is very unlikely that you will ever start your backup quarterback over them, and you are also going to be creating large confusion for you, because even if you like the other quarterbacks matchup better, that might not be in the upper echelon tier. You might try to get cute and start them, and even if they are in a wet dream matchup, they might end up fumbling the bag for you. So you're just going to add extra confusion by drafting them. And plus, if you are betting the draft capital of a quarterback in the S, the A, or the B tier, you are assuming that that pick is going to work out, and you are definitely burning a bench spot that could be used to potentially hold a lottery ticket running back or wide receiver. It is important to note that if you are in a 14-team or deeper league, I would consider taking a backup quarterback regardless, because if your other league mates are going to end up taking 2, and some people maybe take just 1, some people take 2, you could be in a scenario where if it's a deeper league, you're stuck with Daniel Jones or Aaron Rodgers if things go tits up. So I definitely would look to get 2 quarterbacks if you are in a deeper 14-team or deeper league. Now we move on to the tight ends. These are my full PPR rankings. To me, tight end feels very much like you either take one of the elite guys, the Bowers, the McBride, or Kittle, or you wait. Now, the middle range tight ends to me feel fine, but at cost, when it comes to a guy like Laporta or Hawkinson, to me, the price is too high. The price is not right, like that TV show. So for me, I definitely feel a lot more confident in that range going running back and wide receiver. But, and this is a big but, shout out to Mia Malkova, if you want a middle range tight end, I would just wait for a guy like Evan Ingram or Mark Andrews, who may fall until like the 8th round. And then at that price, when I have them in the same range as Laporta, Kelsey, Hawkinson, it feels very good that you got a big value there. Now, if you miss on the early guys and you're sitting in the middle rounds and the tight ends just went off the board, lickety split, they came off the board instantly, you weren't able to collect a potential falling value with a guy like Ingram or Andrews, I would be searching to draft one of the young guns, one of the rookies like Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland, or go with a safer bet like Tucker Kraft or Jake Ferguson. If you end up getting completely iced out of the tight end position and you're in like the tier 5 range with Goddard, Strange, Janu, and Kincaid, I would probably end up taking a second tight end. And just like we talked about with the quarterbacks a little bit ago, if you take a tight end from one of the first 3 tiers, please do not take a second tight end. They're just going to be burning a hole in your fantasy bench, burning a hole in your pocket, because you're probably never going to end up actually playing them, and you'll probably talk yourself into the disaster scenario where you're building like a fucking zombie fortress in your basement in case an outbreak happens, fucking World War Z style, right? And you're never going to cut them, so you're just burning a hole on your bench. I definitely don't think if you're taking one of the upper echelon tight ends, you need to draft a second one. Now we move to the running back draft strategy. If you want all of my player takes at the running back position inside the top 40, which is on your screen right now, you can watch my video on my top 40 running back rankings. Same thing will be the case when we talk about the wide receivers a little bit later. I have a top 40 wide receiver video, but you should be watching all of this video first, of course. Now, to me, there are 3 strategies at the running back position. Hero running back, which I also previously made a video on, where you draft one elite running back in one of the first 2 rounds. Now, you can push it, you can stretch it, pause, but in my opinion, if you stretch it into the first 3 rounds where, hey, running backs are falling a lot more and you can let them be your hero and you smash wide receivers, there is a chance that you don't love the running backs in the 3rd round. And if you're in that scenario, I would just pivot off of the strategy entirely. But the goal of getting a hero running back is so you have a very reliable running back as your RB1. You are able to pick up a bunch of wide receivers, potentially a quarterback and tight end before you go back to taking the running back position. Double hero running back is going to be the exact same thing, except for instead of 1 running back in the first 2 or 3 rounds, you take 2. I also made a video on that. This allows you to wait even longer on taking your 3rd running back, and you will have 2 running backs that have the upside to potentially finish inside the top 5. And if you bang out potentially 2 running backs pause within the first 2-3 rounds, and they both end up into the top 5 at the running back position, you have an amazing chance of winning your league. Lastly, there is 0 running back, and this is a strategy that has grown in popularity in a very big way in the early 2020s. With 0 running back, you are putting the running back position on the back burner for the first 7 or 8 rounds, and you are building a super team, the dream team at wide receiver with an elite quarterback and an elite tight end. After those first 7 or 8 rounds, you will smash the running back position like it is your stepsister trapped in a fucking washing machine. This strategy should only ever be utilized for 1, if you already feel confident playing fantasy football. If this is like your first year playing fantasy football, your second year, you're kind of new to things, that's fine. It's fine to be new to anything, right? You got to learn somehow. But if you try to utilize 0 running back, you are going to get discouraged very, very quickly. So for 1, I don't think this is a good strategy at all. If you're a beginner fantasy player, this strategy also should only ever be used if you are in a league that starts 3 wide receivers and a flex, or 2 wide receivers and 2 flexes, or maybe even deeper than that. Because if you're in your vanilla 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, and a flex league, 0 running back becomes significantly worse. So to simplify all of what I just said with running backs, the more running backs you commit to early on in your fantasy draft, the less you should be committing to in the middle rounds of your drafts, where outside of recently, the running back position has been incredibly risky in the middle rounds of drafts. Now we move on into the final position before we do our mock draft, and that is going to be the wide receiver draft strategy. But before we talk about the wide receivers and before we do our mock draft, I would like to give you guys a quick word for our friends and our partner over at Underdog. If you're brand new to Underdog and sign up using promo code Notorious, or by clicking on the link in the video description, you will get a free pick plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus funds, as well as receiving my draft guide to your email the day after you end up signing up to the email that you signed up to Underdog with. Now, if you don't know what Underdog is, it is the best place to do best ball fantasy football drafts. You might be like, Nick, what are best ball fantasy football drafts? Well, they're the best part about fantasy football. It's the draft, and that's it. There's no waivers, no trades, and no in-season management. Underdog automatically puts the highest scores into your lineup at the end of every single week. Underdog's biggest tournament, the flagship tournament, $15 million in total prizes, Best Ball Mania, $2 million to first place, $1 million to second place, $25 to enter. You might be like, Nick, $25 is a little much for me. Then they have the puppy tournament for you, $5 to enter, $100,000 to first place. So please make sure you check that out. Promo code Notorious, or by clicking on the link in the video description. Also, again, if you just want my rankings, you're already on Underdog, you don't want to sign up to Underdog, $12.50 linked in the video description over on Patreon. The rankings are updated all the time. I think since the start of August when I released these, I've done like 30-ish updates to the PPR and half PPR rankings, so I'm updating them all the time. Now, for wide receivers, like I said with the running back position, if you want to hear my reasoning behind all these players and you don't want to just see the takes, the list on the screen here, you would want to go ahead and head on over to the wide receiver top 40 rankings video. With wide receivers, you are essentially doing the exact same exercise that we just did with the running backs. If you are taking a ton of wide receivers in the middle rounds, which is honestly what I kind of tend to be doing in fantasy drafts, you want to calm your titties, calm down a little bit late in drafts, and start taking more running backs, right? Because you're not going to be able to start the 8 million wide receivers just because you find so much value in the middle rounds, the late rounds. You don't need to be taking that many. Now, if you are avoiding wide receivers, which honestly I definitely do not advise if you are in a half or full PPR league, you need to make sure you take enough deep shots like your name was Stephen Curry to find the diamonds in the rough at the wide receiver position. So now that we've talked about league sizes, roster settings, and scoring settings, we've talked about how much bye weeks matter versus how much they don't matter, and we've also talked about our quarterback, tight end, running back, and wide receiver strategies, I would now like to head on over to a mock draft and show you guys how I'm going to actually look to attack my home league draft, my 12-team, full PPR, 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, 2 flexes, a kicker, defense, and 6 bench spot draft from the 4th overall pick. All right, we put all the league settings in, and we are going to be drafting from the 4th spot where I'm drafting in my home league. Now, I did import the first 3 picks of the draft because I do believe it will be Jamar Chase, Bijan, and Saquon Barkley. At least those should be the first 3 guys off the board in my personal home league. So I wanted to set this up so that, hey, I don't just magically get Bijan Robinson at the 104 because I just don't think, or Jamar Chase, that would be possible in my home league. So for me, if I'm going into my draft right now, I know my friends will probably end up watching this video, and I hope that they don't, so they don't know what I'm going to be doing. But if I was the 103, I would probably take Jahmyr Gibbs ahead of me just because I really want Jahmyr Gibbs that much, and they'll probably get a good old laugh about that. But ultimately, I do have Saquon ranked ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs. I just think people are really overthinking Saquon, so if I do go ahead and draft Gibbs ahead of him, I'm going to feel stupid because I went against my own thought process. But Jahmyr Gibbs for me is the pick at the 104. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be absolutely dominant this season, like Shaquille O'Neal in the paint. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be getting so many more opportunities compared to past seasons. There have been so many reports that Jahmyr Gibbs is no longer going to be sitting on the bench like a cuck while David Montgomery is working early on in the game. Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be out there instantly off Jump Street. Shout out to, I almost said Jason Tatum, but his name is not Jason Tatum. That's the basketball player for the Celtics. Shout out to Channing Tatum. Shout out to Jonah Hill as well. After we go ahead and draft Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Malik Neighbors, Justin Jefferson, Ashton Genty, CeeDee Lamb, Derrick Henry, Puka Nacua, Devon Achane, Nico Collins, Josh Jacobs, Brian Thomas Jr., Christian McCaffrey, Drizzy Drake London, Bucky Irving, Brock Bowers, and Josh Allen. I love Amon-Ra St. Brown as much as the next guy. I love Malik Neighbors more than probably the next guy, but Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb going behind them is absolutely ludicrous. And if I was pick number 9 and I got CeeDee Lamb and Christian McCaffrey, I might just literally stand up from the table, whip my Johnson out, and do a helicopter dick mode because honestly, they might as well just hand me all the money right there, but that's probably not going to be happening in my home league. So we're back up on the clock at the 1.4, and to me, or at the 2.9, because at the 1.4 we got Jahmyr Gibbs, we are going to start off double running back. I'm not a huge fan of A.J. Brown. Not that I don't think he's a talented player. I do, but I just feel like he's kind of one of those where you wave the white flag and you make your pick. Hey, A.J. Brown's not going to completely bend my team over and raw dog them until the next morning, right? I think that A.J. Brown is just a fine bet to be a top 12 wide receiver. I don't think he's finishing in the top 3. I don't think he's finishing in the top 5. Whereas I could see a guy like Tyreek Hill doing that. I could see, if all things go right for Ladd McConkey, maybe that's possible for him, but I don't see it with how run heavy the Philadelphia Eagles are. So I'm going running back to back Michael Jordan, 96-97, and we're taking Chase Brown. Now this might be looked at as a quote unquote reach because in some leagues you can get him inside of the 3rd round. And even though we can start 4 wide receivers at a time on this team because it's 2 wide receivers and 2 flexes, I am still confident in going double hero running back off the jump here because I believe so heavily in Chase Brown. Everything the coaching staff is saying is so positive about Chase Brown. I think this guy's going to catch 1 zillion passes this season. And even though seeming like Trey Hendrickson's going to be back for the Bengals, that defense still is not very good. He is the sole bright spot of that defense after Chase Brown, A.J. Brown, Ladd McConkey, Kyron Williams, Lamar Jackson, Jonathan Taylor, and James Cook. Now, this would be the point in the draft where if I went running back and wide receiver, I would be, without a shadow of a doubt, considering Trey McBride with this pick. And I think if Trey McBride falls to you at the 3.4, which is pretty close to his ADP, where at pick 28, he goes around 26, 28, depending on the platform, I would be fine doing that. But since this league is full PPR. I think we're really punching ourselves directly in the gonads if we do not go with a wide receiver here. I can find the falling tight end values. I could take 2 tight ends late, especially with 6 bench spots. So we're going to go ahead and fade away from the tight end here and go with the best wide receiver available, which in my opinion is Tyreek Hill. Is Tyreek Hill a safe bet? Fuck no, baby. Tyreek Hill last season had more children than he had touchdowns. Crazy stat, I know. That is insane, but it's true. Tyreek Hill has been banged up dealing with the oblique injury, but everything I've read points towards he's good to go. They're just being cautious. They're not being silly. They're wrapping their willy, which is something that Tyreek Hill doesn't do. And Tyreek has that ultimate upside to be the wide receiver 1. I get it could be a crash and burn scenario like Ricky Bobby in Talladega Nights, but ultimately I think that Tyreek Hill has that upside, that ceiling to fly me to the moon like that Frank Sinatra song. And again, Nick, you're a Dolphins fan. You're so biased. Do we really think that last year Tyreek Hill was so shit and now he's just completely washed? I don't think so. He was getting open a ton. The quarterback situation was bad. The coaching was bad. I feel like things are just going to be better this season with another year of Mike McDaniel. Tua hopefully stays healthy. Then I think Tyreek Hill can be the wide receiver 1. We know he can do it. After Tyreek, Trey McBride, JSN, T. Higgins, George Kittle, Jaden, Stormy Daniels, Breece Hall, Jalen, stop. It hurts. Marvin Harrison Jr., Joe Shiesty, Alvin Kamara, Omarion Hampton, Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, Kenneth Walker, DK Metcalf, and Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin puts pen to paper, gets that new deal. So shout out to him going in the 4th round. Again, looking at the wide receivers still available, I do like some of the other wide receivers ahead of Terry. I don't think he's scoring as many touchdowns as he scored last year, but if you draft him, I get the logistics behind doing it. This is a very interesting start. Team 5 says F the running back position. So we got Jameer, we got Jamar Chase, and we got Tyreek Hill at quarterback. All the guys that I would feel comfortable drafting here if they were to have fallen are not here. They're all gone. At tight end, the big 3 is gone. Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, LeBron James. So we're not going to be drafting a tight end here. We're just going to keep spamming the wide receiver button. Now, if you are getting ultra fucking risky and you wanted to draft a 3rd running back here, it would be Travion Henderson, but we're going to keep clicking on the wide receivers and we're going to go with Courtland Sutton here. Now, for the people that want to draft Rashee Rice, look, I love Rashee Rice. Before there was talk of him getting suspended, I had him ranked as, I believe, either my wide receiver 10 or 11. If you wanted to draft him there, I would have been fine with it, even way higher than this in like potentially the 2nd round. But now knowing he's going to miss 6 games, and on a team here where we only have 1 receiver, right? It's not like we've already drafted 2. Not like we've already drafted 3. We just have Tyreek Hill, who is kind of a risk. I will acknowledge that, right? I will acknowledge that. Shout out to Roman Reigns, okay? So we're going to go Courtland Sutton here. Courtland Sutton looked like a beast, looked like a menace to defenses, a menace to society up against in that preseason game. I forgot exactly who they were playing, but in the last preseason game, he saw a large amount of targets from Bo Nix. The guy was feasting like a fucking fat kid on Thanksgiving Day, eating the turkey, the turducken, the motherfucker's eating everything. Courtland Sutton's going to be very heavily targeted on this offense. I love Sean Payton. I love Bo Nix. So Courtland Sutton feels like a certified smash inside of the 4th round. After Sutton, Rashee Rice, Mike Evans, Chuba Hubbard, Sam Laporta, James Conner, and DJ Moore. So we have a safe option at wide receiver and a risky option. We have 2 running backs, I believe, that are pretty safe and have super high upside. So now the question is, do you want to, double wrap the condom on our team, go safer at wide receiver, or go for more upside? I'm going to continue to hit on just the guys that I like, right? Best player available. We don't love the quarterbacks. We don't love the tight ends, so we're going to keep smashing the wide receiver button. I don't think Travion Henderson would be available in your home league, so I would not be taking him here because I think that's unrealistic for me. George Pickens or Tet McMillan would be the best player available here. Tet McMillan has been banged up a little bit with the hamstring. Nothing appears to be super serious, like it's going to be multiple weeks of the season. It seems like he's going to be good to go for week 1, though he is a rookie. Maybe he starts off a little bit slower, so it is definitely a toss-up for me. We will lean with Tet McMillan this time, though. I just love getting young talent onto my team, and with a guy that played so well in college and transitions into an offense that I think is going to like to pass the ball a ton, with a quarterback that had a solid stretch down the season, I think Tet McMillan is going to be as the kids would say, legitness. After Tet, we see Travis Hunter, David Montgomery, Pat Mahomes, Travion Henderson, Zay Flowers, Devontae Smith, Travis Kelce, RJ Harvey, Isaiah Pacheco, Xavier Worthy, Professor X, TJ Hawkinson, Aaron Jones, Baker Mayfield, Jameson Williams, George Pickens, as well as Jalen waddled away, waddle. Jalen waddled away till the very next day. So now we're just going to keep spamming the wide receiver position. And here we're going to go with an unk, right? We've got our 2 unks, a youngin. We've got another youngin at running back. And we're going to go ahead and draft Calvin Ridley here. Again, I am not taking this draft like it's one of my mock drafts. And what I mean by that is in the mock drafts, I might take different players that maybe I don't like necessarily as much as another because I want to differentiate things and we want to see how the team build looks. No, I'm trading this like this is my fucking draft. Do or die. I need to win this league. I'm either coming in dead last or I'm coming in first. That's my goal in fantasy, is to win the league. And if you take a lot of upside swings like I do, you might come in last, but ultimately I'm looking to win the fucking thing, okay? So I'm drafting Calvin Ridley here. I love Calvin Ridley this season. We've talked about it so many times, but Will Levis legitimately, absolutely destroyed any chance Calvin Ridley had at being good last season for fantasy. We saw the flashes, but ultimately there was zero consistency. After Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Swift, Mark Andrews, Joe Mixon, Jerry Jeudy, Bo Nix, as well as Quinshon Judkins, who there was a report today that maybe he's going to go ahead and go back to college. I don't think that's going to happen, but man, Quinshon Judkins, things are not looking good for him. You should not be drafting him in this range. Now, we're going to go ahead and do a bit of a reach here and take a guy that I think will probably be going in this range by the time you get to your actual fantasy drafts. If your league mates are smart, if you're with a bunch of idiot league mates, shout out to Nick Ercolani, you're drafted with a bunch of fucking airheads, a bunch of bozos, then Egbuka might go later. But I love Egbuka. I think he is going to make significant damage into this offense early on in his NFL career. No Jalen McMillan for the first 8-9 games of the season. No Chris Godwin for the first at least 4 games. I think Egbuka is going to be a star early on in his NFL career. But now we have to start to kind of consider, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wide receivers. We can't start them all. So now we kind of have to get into the range where we want to take a backup running back, potentially a quarterback, tight end here. Now, we've been completely iced out at tight end, which is perfectly fine with me. I didn't expect Evan Ingram or Njoku to potentially fall our way. So eventually we will have to take a tight end, but only this team doesn't have a tight end, which would be team number 3, team 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. They all have tight end. So every other team has tight end except for the team in front of us. So even if we get left for dead potentially with just Tucker Kraft, I'll be fine with that at quarterback. These teams around us have a quarterback except for team 3, so I think Brock Purdy will fall to me. Now, if you're in a home league where they only take one quarterback, it is important to know your leagues, right? If you can go back into the league history and you can figure out, hey, my league mates always take 2 quarterbacks, then you want to make sure that you are not getting buried under the quarterback avalanche and starting fucking Michael Penix in week number 1, right? Now, if you know your league mates, typically most just take 1, maybe 2 or 3 take 2, then you can wait. But I know how the bots work on here, and I know how my friends work, and they're going to take a fucking second quarterback, and I might end up getting absolutely screwed. So we're going to go ahead and get a running back here first. J.K. Dobbins, definitely feeling nice about the reports that he's been getting. At least early on, he'll be the starter seemingly, but I don't think that necessarily means that RJ Harvey is going to be useless. I definitely don't think that. And I also think this could be a scenario where both running backs end up putting up decent fantasy numbers over there in Denver. So I'm going to go ahead and take Jordan Mason, though, just because I feel a little bit safer about his projection. Talking about 1A with Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason is the 1B. Never draft a defense before the final rounds of the draft, whether that's round 15 or round 16. Crazy to take one earlier than that when there's so much. Dobbins could legitimately be a league winner and you took the fucking Eagles defense over him when you have Quinshon Judkins. Give your head a shake, Mr. Roboto. Okay, that is not a good idea. So now we're gonna go quarterback because we don't want to get absolutely fucked over at the quarterback position. We're to grab Brock Purdy. I love Brock Purdy this year. I get Juwan Jennings might be missing a decent amount of time due to the contract, due to the injury. I get that Brandon Ayuk's not going to be there for a while, but he's got McCaffrey, he's got George Kittle, and he's got a man who's took multiple bullets to the chest and got his Rolex back, Ricky Rolex. So I love Brock Purdy this season. We're not going to be taking backup quarterback because I feel very confident on Brock Purdy. I have him ranked significantly higher than consensus. Now we're at the point where people are going to start taking backup tight ends like we already saw here with Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland, the rookie back-to-back RR like a Rolls Royce. Janu Smith goes in round number 10, so we got to go ahead and get our guy Tucker Kraft here. Now, the Green Bay Packers are a offense that was kind of up and down last season, but they don't really have a lot of red zone weapons. Today, Junior, a bunch of red zone weapons like some other teams do, so Tucker Kraft is very involved. Obviously, Josh Jacobs will be as well. So we got our tight end in this range. If you wanted to draft a second tight end because you're not as confident in Tucker Kraft, I'm fine with that. If you're not a huge Brock Purdy stan like I am, I'm fine drafting a second quarterback, but I definitely don't want to be in the scenario where I have 2 quarterbacks and 2 tight ends on my roster. I would not like that. I would not like that, but I am not scared of these guys. We're not drafting a second tight end or a second quarterback. So right now we have 1, 2, 3 running backs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wide receivers. So we want to add another running back to the squad, and we're going to get Nick Chubb. Joe Mixon on the pup, the PUP, physically unable to participate like my wiener after a couple of whiskey sours. So 9-inch Nicholas Chubb is now in the driver's seat. Will that actually matter? Who fucking knows? He looked absolutely washed last season, but maybe, just maybe, he will be able to figure things out this season, and maybe 9-inch Nicholas Chubb will be able to get it up. I love Nick Chubb, and frankly, I think last year I told everyone not to draft. I know I told everyone not to draft him, so maybe another year removed from that catastrophic injury that hit our screen up against the Steelers in that primetime matchup. Maybe now he is even better off. So we're going to take at least another running back, probably 2 more running backs, and then another wide receiver. Now, Jacory Krosky, Moret, Bill Nye, the science guy, Uncle Bill, Little Bill is still available. Now, if he for some reason falls to the 12th round, you pick him up, obviously. But my friend Mike told me that in his home league draft, he went in at pick number 64. Pick number 64, which is way too high for him. So if your league mates are plugged in, shout out Lena, I think that you're never going to be able to get Bill at this pick. So we're just going to keep on going down here and not select him. Najee Harris allegedly might be hopeful to play week 1. I'd like to fucking see that happen. So we'll go with a different running back here, get some more running back depth, and just scoop up Braylon Allen. There's been talks about how much usage he will get compared to Breece Hall. I still think Breece Hall is very valuable. He's going to get a lot of pass catching opportunities. But if Braylon Allen's given opportunities to potentially bulldozer his way into the end zone, then he's definitely valuable in the 12th round. If something happens to Breece Hall, knock on wood, we don't root for injuries, then he has league winner written all over him. Now we're going to go ahead and get a wide receiver here. We're to scoop up Keenan Allen. His ADP is not moving really at all. I think he's kind of just stuck in this direction. Jacoby Myers suggests a trade, requests a trade, and suggests a trade. Who knows if that'll actually fucking do anything or if they'll just give him more money. We shall see. But if that is the case, then Donta Thornton definitely needs to move up the rankings even further. Amari Cooper's there, but let's be honest, Amari Cooper Scooper ain't doing diddly squat. But we'll get Keenan Allen here. Keenan Allen last year was not great if you had him, but he did have those big booms of games. He had a couple of really big games. The rest of the games were straight up in the gutter, chilling with Master Splinter, but I do feel very confident in Keenan Allen's upside at the very least, and I feel a lot more confident with him having Justin Herbert over Caleb Williams with the scrub coach that they had last season. Now they have Ben Johnson, so things should be feeling a lot better over there in Chi-Town. So we're back up on the clock here, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 running backs. So we'll close things out here with another receiver. You could go another running back, and again, if you wanted a backup tight end or a backup quarterback, I'd be fine with that. And honestly, since Brenton Strange is available, I don't always love going 2 tight ends, but in this scenario, we'll do it because I think Strange has some big breakout upside there in Jacksonville with the new Liam Cohen system there, and hopefully the offense is just a whole lot better. And then we're going to go with our kicker and defense. For kicker, you just go with the highest ranked guy available. We'll go with Tyler Bass, who absolutely ripped out my heart last year as a Dolphins fan. Fuck you, Tyler Bass, but he's a really good kicker in fantasy, except for last year at the beginning where he was straight up dreadful, and then he hit the dagger up against the Dolphins, which just made me want to cry because honestly, I knew he was going to hit that kick. He was so cold. He was ice cold. He was frozen like his name was Elsa and Anna, and still the guy does that. Now, for defenses, you don't care about how good you think the defense is. I don't care how good you think the Rams are, how good you think the Jets are, the Cardinals. All you need to do is draft a defense going up against a not-so-hot opponent in week 1, and then you figure it out after that. I make videos on defenses to stream every single week of the season, so I will help you out on that. The reason why you do that is because, sure, the Denver Broncos might be elite defense, the Philadelphia Eagles, but you're missing out on a lot of great players if you are taking a defense in that range. You are also going to have games where the Eagles play up against hard opponents, where the Denver Broncos, the Ravens play up against hard opponents. Week 1, the Ravens are going up against the Buffalo Bills. Week 1, the Ravens can score negative fantasy points, and you drafted them in the 9th round. It is idiotic to me. You want to be streaming defenses, getting the best possible matchup imaginable every single week. Thank you guys all so much for watching. If you ended up enjoying, make sure you guys uppercut that subscribe button like it owes you some money. Leave a like on today's video to help me out a ton. Make sure you guys do check out Underdog, promo code Notorious, or by clicking on the link in the video description. Make sure you guys get my rankings over on Patreon. I love you long time. Check out all the videos on your screen if you haven't seen them already. Hope you have a great one, and as always, good boy!